So again, namaste, konnichiwa, hello everyone. I'm Keitaro Sakamoto from Morisawa, which is a Japanese type foundry, and I'm a field manager of Morisawa type design competition as well. It is truly a pleasure to be here as a vision speaker today. And thank you very much for having me, and I'd like to say thank you to the committee and all organizers. I'm excited to introduce the Far Eastern culture through my experience. Well, I'm from the country that invented this thing. Well, this is not an advertisement, just to be clear. Let me explain this product to those who are not familiar with. This is an instant noodles that allows you to get ramen noodle instantly just by pouring boiled water. It was invented almost 50 years ago in Japan, and here in India, it combines masala taste with the Japanese noodle style. I like and I'm very proud of this kind of cross-cultural mind that my country has. Today, I'd like to talk about the multilingual typeface that covers multiple languages, which has the same design concept among the various scripts. From here, I'd like to show you what is happening in the creation of the multilingual typeface and the reason why the type industry should confront this complex project from the perspective of a Japan's type foundry. Here, these are my greetings in English and Japanese. I'm showing this not to introduce my background, but to compare the difference between Latin alphabets and Japanese letters. How many of you have seen the Japanese text before? You have? Ooh, a lot of you have. Great. Thank you. On the right side, you can see that we use some Latin alphabets and Roman numerals. Yes, we Japanese use different scripts in one text in our daily life, such as Kanji, Kana, Latin, and numerals. Before I get into the topic of the multilingual typeface, I would like to explain about the Japanese grammar system briefly. I hope this will help you to understand the way of thinking of the Japanese people. So let's get the Japanese language class started. This is a Japanese novel. Normally, it is written in vertical way. There are a lot of stories about Japanese writing system, but let me put it aside this time. Let's take a closer look. For example, these complex angular characters, the kanji, and these two compose one word. Kanji is a phonogram, like emoji today, and we can express the meaning of words in a few letters. There are small round characters next to them. These are kana. Kana let us know how to read complex kanji and how to pronounce it. It is a common situation that we don't know how to pronounce the kanji, even we can see what piece constructed. In that case, kana help us. This is one function of kana. Next, let's look at the whole novel. Please make sure this is written in a vertical way. Kanji has angular shapes. So let me put marks on them, or only this much. The rest of them are kana. So what is the role of kana? To understand that, we need to look back on the history. This is one of the oldest Japanese books. I guess you can see angular shapes in it. Yes, it is written in only Chinese characters, I mean kanji. Until the Chinese character was transmitted from China as a character that describes a sentence, we Japanese didn't have any original unique characters. Unfortunately, Chinese and Japanese have totally different grammars. It was hard for Japanese to adapt the Chinese language system. Therefore, we borrowed the Chinese characters, then we have gradually got used to the imported characters by using the characters which have the similar sound to Japanese, or by changing the order in accordance with the Japanese grammar. Kana was invented in that process. We cut down some Chinese characters to indicate the order of the reading. For example, this kanji has a sound, and we created kana, the bottom line, that has the same sound of a with the rounded shape, to distinguish from the original kanji letter form. Today, we have 50 basic kana characters. I will show you some simple analogy in English. The lower letters are translation in Japanese. Let me mark up kanji, which corresponds to the English words. I drive a car. The rest of letters are kana. As you can see, kana complement the meaning between words. Without kana, I cannot understand the whole meaning of this sentence exactly. Well, it was a small Japanese class. I hope you could understand that. I just wanted to explain how we treat different scripts in our grammar system. Well, this is Adobe Japan 1.6 character sets. Do you know how many characters we have in Japanese fonts? 1,000? 2,000? 5,000? No? More than 20,000 characters. And there is an interesting story. As you can see, there are a lot of glyphs, but the kana is only less than 1% in this chart. Kana occupies less than 1% in this chart, and 99% of it consists kanji, Latin, and symbols. This is one of the unique points of Japanese. Like this, no? When we write or read something, we change our mindset about ideogram and phonogram very rapidly and naturally. Then, how do we create fonts? Any specific tricks to complete the whole characters? The answer is no. But if I pick up one big difference from other scripts, when we produce Japanese typeface, we do not work as an individual, but as several teams, which are mainly divided into 4 teams: key design, expansion, check, and formatting. Once the concept of typefaces is decided, a designer makes the major 500 letters. These 500 letters are the key design, which have many parts in common with many other letters. Next, several designers work together in order to expand letters in accordance with the required character sets. This workflow is basically cloned by handwriting, and these will be digitalized one by one. It is not yet the end of the process even when the letter production is completed. We output some of the heavy use vocabularies and check them with tons of sheets of paper. In this step, we repeat small modifications of design. finally, we changed this golden monster into a required format, such as OTF or TTF or something. This process takes at least a year for one font style. Now, I'd like to show you one of the successful examples of Japanese typeface. That is Shingo. Shingo family, which was released in 1990s. Today, Shingo can be seen everywhere in Japan. You can even say it's a part of the Japanese landscape. The reason why it is used so widely is that it brought an innovation to the process of the Japanese typeface production. This is one of the popular sans serif in 1980s before the fame came to Shingo. Japanese typefaces at that time, we didn't have the idea of family. These samples are scanned images from the old type specimen. Every weight stands alone like M as M, B as B. Every weight was produced as an individual font, and as a result, they became a group. Strictly speaking, they were not family yet. Still, sometimes, different designers created each weight individually. Why it happened? There are many facts, but I can simply say that it's because every process was analog at the time. Have you ever seen this machine? This is a phototype setting machine. It inputs letters by using technology of photography. My company Morisawa invented this machine for Japanese letters, and the machine was widely used in the Japanese printing and publishing companies until 1980s. Instead of using a metal type like monotype or linotype, this machine used a method of photo printing letters on a photographic paper by heating light to a glass letter board. This is not a digital camera, this is an analog camera. There were a metal type in Japan back then, but imagine that there are thousands of letters to set if you are in a printing or publishing industry in Japan. In this way, our phototype setting machine spread out in the market. However, as you know, in the days of personal computers, such machines are no longer needed. Instead of making a glass plate, the type foundry had to create a digital font. We had to revolutionize the process of font production. In the process of creating Shingo, we converted the creation process into a systematic workflow, honestly, which is totally different than from the previous process. For example, we classified common parts in Kanji characters so that anyone can draw characters in the same design. Of course, each part is sorted really carefully if they slightly differ. This innovative change has contributed to the improvement of the production efficiency since the Japanese language requires a large number of characters. The Japanese characters are designed in square shapes, so it also contributes to systematize. The other breakthrough was that we make these typefaces highly versatile with bringing the idea of family in Latin typefaces. The chief designer of Shingo, Mr. Kozuka, describes the concept of Shingo in his book as follows. Instead of Japanese sans serif at that time, carved line under the influence of the printing letter, I truly want to create a Japanese sans serif with a homogeneous line width as seen in Latin. As a consequence, the linear portion became almost horizontal and vertical. And the curved portion were not like organic lines, such as handwriting anymore. Lines as if written in curved ruler or arc, and this makes Shingo to be born to be a modern typeface. After 20 years from the release, with the demand for the visibility and the changing of design trends, it has evolved into UD Shingo as our first universal design font that cares about readability and legibility much more. You may find changes in Latin bottom easily. We also readjusted the counter space or details in each characters. It contributes to its legibility and readability. And from 2013, we also made condensed version in 40 different weights. This is not Photoshop. Each of them is an individual font with 50 to 90% compressibility. And for your information, each has, of course, more than 20,000 glyphs. The evolution never stops. The typeface Shingo are adapted to many other languages. I think you may have heard about the word CJK. It's been the hottest topic in the font industry, especially in Far East Asia. CJK stands for Chinese, Japanese, and Korean. We began the development of Chinese and Korean typefaces based on the Japanese UD Shingo in response to some social demands. This graph shows the number of inbound tourists to Japan. The number of tourists has increased rapidly in recent years. And last year, almost 70% of the tourists from China, Korea, Taiwan, and Hong Kong. Actually, I can frequently hear people talking in Chinese or Cantonese or Korean in the city of Tokyo where I live in. On the other hand, this constructing graph shows an opposed fact. This is a Japanese population. With a decrease of the birth rate, it is said that Japanese population is declining and it will be halving before 2100. I'm not an expert on social studies, but it's not difficult to imagine that in the future, the Japanese people will need to communicate with foreign visitors more actively than ever. These facts push us the development of Chinese and Korean. However, since Japanese and Korean are different, the development has not been easy. Chinese character is used in Greater China, and Japanese kanji have in common. There are some slight differences between them. Characters on the left side are showing Japanese kanji characters, which is similar to Chinese traditional characters. The right side is showing simplified Chinese characters. Simplified Chinese is used in the mainland of China. The number of strokes is decreased, and the form of proportion is simplified. Both have same meaning basically, but you'd recognize how simply the right one are. Here is another particular example. This is a Chinese character which means born. We write this way in Japanese, but the Chinese write in this way in Chinese. The direction of orientation of the internal square is different, as you can see. We have a bunch of similar cases. So in terms of the design of typeface, it means that we had to create several characters that we do not have appeared in Japanese kanji. The biggest concern for us was the number of characters. It required almost 30,000 characters to meet the Chinese national standard. However, since the production was occurred in the world factory, China, the capacity was not a problem eventually, and we got there. Now, let's move on to Korea. Korean Hangul is completely different from Chinese character or Japanese kanji. Hangul character is composed by phonetic symbols. The way of reading in Korean and Japanese are different. Japanese kanji is ideogram and interpreted by the shape. But Korean is interpreted by reading the flow of a combination of parts that forms a character. To bring a sense of unity with Shingo, we needed a different approach. Shingo is a typeface which contains large space in the characters. In the case of Japanese, it made us easy to read because we can recognize its shape at a glance. But in the case of Hangul, characters, simply made a large character disturbs the recognition of characters. So how design the space is very crucial. In the end, in creating of Hangul, we succeeded to adjust the counter space using the guides to bring the taste of Shingo. But we had another problem, which is to bring the unity between Japanese and Korean. This is because that Hangul has many circles and rounded parts in the letters, which Japanese kanji doesn't have. This is Japanese kanji. There is no circle in each letter. Fortunately, in Japanese, we have another letter system called kana. As I said at the beginning of my talk, kana is used to show the pronunciation of kanji characters, or it loads as an adjective inflection. You can see kana has much more curved lines and some circle than kanji. Based on that, we could adjust the weight of Hangul, which has many rounded parts. Uniform consistency was created both in Japanese and Hangul Korean. Now, you know the story of UD Shingo CJK. Don't you think that the bold weight is beautiful too? Designs born in Japan may become the basis of Asian designs. UD Shingo has already covered CJK and Latin alphabets. In the near future, it may cover Thai, Indian, Arabic script, and maybe Cyrillic. As a global typeface foundry, we do respect every culture. Setting one Japanese typeface as our starting point, many linguistic experts and typographers from all over the world are involved to this UD Shingo project. Many multilingual typefaces are gathered from many foundries, and I think that each company has various purposes. But at least, we do not want to bring just globalization. We want to deliver same experience to many more people who can be touched by the typographical harmony. Now, I'd like to show you an example of multilingual fonts, which shows us the future. In 2020, the Olympics and Paralympics Games comes to Tokyo. This is our concept image. This kind of guideboards will be in Tokyo around 2020. It shows tourists the directions with the unity of typography. The more tourists increase, the more guideboards with the unified languages will be required. We can imagine more. The ticket counters will be much more sophisticated like this. It can switch the language to English, Chinese, and Korean. This also creates the unity among the interface. And this is Korean. And more. The evolution of technology gives us much further imaginations. This is a train map written in Japanese and English. Just thinking about glasses with automatic translation function, which may appear in 2020. With the harmony of technology and the unified typeface designs, you will not be uncomfortable. This is what happened in the auto translation to Chinese. Did you notice the change? I've heard from many engineers and designers that they want to create this kind of harmonization. You may buy one after getting your smartwatch. A number of cases show us that multi-languages font extended the possibilities of typefaces. We can try more design based on multi-languages, and technology also has evolved to handle enough. In not too distant future, people will speak more languages, which brings us more closer than before, especially in East Asia. Even we have different characters, the more we collaborate, the more the world will change. Lastly, I'd like to raise a small question to you, which I don't have any answer to it. The question is about international. There is the word NonLatin. It is a term often used in multilingual font development. I use this word pretty often, and there is nothing wrong. It is very easy to understand. But what is non-Latin? I mean, what is not Latin? There are many scripts in the world, and they have different systems. It cannot be simply distinguished by whether it is Latin or not. I am personally looking for appropriate words to become the alternative of this non-Latin. Maybe international or global. Yes, it could be. Multilingual, not bad. Or marriage. I'm looking for words like this impression. I would like to make something like Japan and India's marriage. In that sense, perhaps masala is a suitable word at this moment. I'm looking for expressions that express such multi-languages where the uniqueness of each language causes a chemical reaction. Please feel free to contact me if you have any idea. I'd like to conclude my presentation. Thank you very much for your kind attention.